reminds me very much of like the Chappelle Show, like impersonation of Prince, being like this kind of like ethereal being who also is insanely good at basketball. That's kind of how Bryce Young is, but for football. He's football Prince.
Well, let's just put it this way here. If Bryce Young runs in the winning touchdown tonight and he says game blouses, I hope you put your hat to him. All right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into Monkey Knife Fights College Football National Championship Preview Show. I'm Dan Watkins. Joining me live from Indianapolis, the great John McKechnie of Rotowire.com. John, how's it going, buddy? I feel like we interrupted you from like some deep meditation, some deep breathing exercises. I mean, are you just like trying to manifest what's going to happen tonight? How you doing?
Yes, I've come down from the mountain in order to do the show today, and I've attained enlightenment, I think, along my journey, and here we are. So no, but here in Indy, very excited. Got a bunch of my buddies here, and we're getting excited. And we've been talking about the game ad nauseum. I feel like they've done a good job prepping me for this show. Honestly, today they are more into Georgia football than I am, even, and so I'm really ready to fire off on today's show.
More into Georgia football than you are. What are they, like Uga's handlers or something?
It's hard to describe how crazy they are, but they are. I imagine that they're going to be calling the dogs early and often today here in Indianapolis, and maybe some grown man barking as well.
I was just going to ask, were they the ones that were spotted barking at the airport the other day?
We drove, so we do have a good alibi on that one, but I can't speak for that later on Monday.
Okay. All right. So you made like what, an 8-hour drive from Atlanta up to Indy?
That is correct. Hit the road early Sunday morning, got into Indianapolis around 5 o'clock, kind of a time vortex really, because you get into Nashville and then all of a sudden you're in Central Time, and where I am now in Indy, it's Eastern Time again. So like it really threw me for a loop. I actually tried to find the link to this call about an hour ago, just thinking that I was in Central Time Zone. Turns out I'm not. So a bit disoriented on the whole time front. I'm really out of it as far as that goes.
Very good, very good. I feel like we need to get some bolts out of you or something like that to get you fired up and ready to go. So I guess I wanted to start off the show for this special occasion here. I want you to take me through your national championship day. So when we get off the air here, what are you doing? Where are you eating? What is the whole John McKechnie game plan going into the national championship tonight?
So I believe I'm going to start with a powerful meal from none other than Waffle House to nourish my body and gain strength. And then I believe we're going to go into the downtown area of Indianapolis, closer to the stadium. Apparently they have like skywalks and things like that, because it is freezing cold here. It is, I think it's going to be around 10 degrees for most of the day, and it's going to feel like 0 degrees for most of the day. So I'm somewhat equipped to handle this as someone who used to live in Wisconsin, but my friends are not. There was a guy wearing shorts last night, not to be a hardo, but just because he's a doofus. So hopefully we're going to come a little bit more prepared for the elements today. And then other than that, I think we're just going to kind of go into the stadium area and just kind of take it all in. I think we're going to go into the game early, something that we don't normally do for like Georgia games. Usually, get in there after kickoff type of thing, not too worried about it, but just want to kind of breathe in the experience. I mean, this is such a huge game, this huge opportunity for my Georgia Bulldogs, and I think it's going to be a great game between them and Alabama. Really, really good. Obviously, a phenomenal team. So I think this is a great matchup. I know that some of the national intrigue is a little bit turned off by just having another all SEC championship type of game, but what can you say? These are the two best teams, and we're going to see them square off tonight.
Yeah, I completely agree. These are the two best teams. This is like the collision course we've been going for ever since that matchup, a little over a month ago in the SEC championship. We wanted the rematch, and they just, both these teams just proved in the college football semifinal that they were far superior than Michigan and Cincinnati, with all due respect to those two schools and those two programs. John, I guess I gotta ask you about your psyche here going into this game. Kirby Smart, 0-4 against Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide. They've blown 3 double-digit leads in those 4 games. And then the SEC championship game this year was just kind of to put it nicely, a bloodbath. So how are you feeling about your Bulldogs tonight going up against Alabama?
There's a couple different schools of thought that I ascribe to, one of which is Alabama simply has the best player in this game at the most important position, and that's going to carry them because that's what it did the first time around. And that, of course, is Bryce Young. And Georgia didn't sack him once in that game. And if that continues once again, then Alabama wins tonight. And there's really no question about that. And they could win it by a decent margin. On the other side, if Georgia adjusts the way they did against Michigan, that they really kind of got off the mat. I mean, more than half the public money was coming in on Michigan as far as the money line was concerned for that semifinal game, because public opinion soured so much on Georgia because of how poorly they played in the SEC championship game. But they really showed some resolve and got back to playing their best football against Michigan. If they're able to do that again, limit the explosive plays on Alabama's offense, especially through the passing game, and get to Bryce Young, and then, get things done on offense. I don't expect them to score a ton of points, but I do need them to score around 30 or so points to really feel comfortable with them getting the win on Monday night.
So last question I have here before we get into our contest stuff is, it's Monday, January 10th. Do we like this game being played on a Monday night, or would we rather have it been played 2 nights ago on Saturday, before the full NFL slate? Or in my opinion, I'm hoping that they expand the playoffs, and then eventually this gets pushed down the road and we got that nice clean weekend with nothing on the slate except for the Pro Bowl between the Super Bowl and the AFC NFC Championship Sunday, and put it on that weekend. I think that'd be perfect if we eventually expand the playoff here. But how do you feel about this game being on a Monday night in January?
I am used to it, but I feel like it's less than an optimal usage of the flagship game of the college football season. All season long, the biggest games are on Saturdays, and for it to be on a Monday, and it's 10 days after New Year's. New Year's kind of feels like the end of college football season. I feel like for most of the public that aren't crazy about college football like I am, they're like, oh yeah, the national championships tonight. Like, oh, that's kind of weird. So I think it's a suboptimal use of college football's biggest showcase game. I think that they can do better than Monday night. I do tend to associate the second Monday of January with it, but I can't speak for everybody. I think it would be better in a more prime time spot, on like a Saturday night, something like that. But college football, they do need to get some of their things figured out, because I also think that playing the college football semifinals on New Year's Eve is also suboptimal. They just kind of bet on people canceling their New Year's plans to watch football. And for all but 4 fan bases, that's just simply not the case.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it kind of worked out this year because like a lot of people's New Year's plans just kind of went down the toilet with COVID.
Right.
But I know I completely agree with you. I think that they could do a better job marketing this, and especially if they move to an expansion of the playoffs, which that could happen this week. They are apparently locked in a closed room somewhere right now, debating that very question. So let's move on.
Speaking of Dan, January 10th, Happy New Year specifically to you.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. I'm with the Larry David school here. Don't say it to me after like the 7th. All right. There's no reason for it. But as we get into our wonderful contest here on Monkey Knife Fight, we have a special promo for you guys today. Every $20 entered into college football championship contests, you get a free $5 college hoops ticket. So college basketball it's going on, but those contests will be picking up even more so here as we get closer and closer to March Madness. Can't believe that it is already January 10th, March right around the corner. Look at that. But here we go, John. Let's start talking about these guys here playing tonight in this game. Let's start with the man himself, the Heisman Trophy winner, Bryce Young for Alabama. Their quarterback, 312.5 passing yards, more or less, is his line. He's reached 313 or more in 9 of 14 games so far this season, including the SEC championship game where he threw for 421 yards on your Georgia Bulldogs. UGA, though, they are number 3 in the nation, allowing just 171 yards per game. I guess my question here for Bryce Young to get to this number is, how big is that absence of John Mechie, who tore his ACL in the SEC championship game last time around?
It's huge. I think there's really no way around it. Mechie was just such a consistent guy. The rapport that he had with Bryce Young was just so sharp. Those guys were on the same page. You could tell the entirety of this season. So losing him and replacing him with a guy who, I think you look at Alabama and you look at the roster, you look at the pedigree on these guys, and whether it's JoJo Earl or Ja'Cory Brooks or Aguiye Hall, like they're all 5-star talents, but they don't have the same just kind of comfort level and chemistry with Bryce Young that Mechie did necessarily. So that does take some of the ceiling down as far as this Alabama passing game when you're looking at options beyond Jamison Williams. But I do believe if this game is competitive like I think it's going to be, I don't think Alabama is going to be able to run the ball a whole lot, nor are they going to really try to force it necessarily. I think that they are going to go to the pass heavily in this one. We only saw them throw 28 times last time out against Cincinnati because they could run the ball with impunity. I think this time we see Bryce Young push for 40 attempts, and just by virtue of that, I think he hits the more than 312 here.
Now, I saw the Georgia defense has nicknamed Bryce Young the gingerbread man because they simply can't catch him, and he was able to move quite a bit with his feet. So can they get to Bryce Young tonight? They didn't sack him once in the SEC championship.
Hearing Bryce Young's reaction to that was also very funny on Saturday. They're like, how do you feel about being called the gingerbread man? And he's very soft-spoken and quiet, but on the field, he's just so, he's just an assassin out there. He's just a savage. Like, he's so good on the field. It reminds me very much of like the Chappelle Show, like impersonation of Prince being like this kind of like ethereal being who also is insanely good at basketball. That's kind of how Bryce Young is, but for football. He's football Prince.
Well, let's just put it this way here. If Bryce Young runs in the winning touchdown tonight and he says game blouses, I hope you put your hat to him. All right. No hard feelings there if that happens.
If only he has the Chappelle Show reference and is hanging from the like he dunked on the goalpost and he's got the one hand hanging there.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So what'd you say you're going with, more or less, there in the 312?
I'm going with more on the 312. I think that he's going to be throwing it a lot tonight. I don't know if Alabama's going to be able to or are going to be interested in running the ball very much.
I agree there. I'm going more as well. I think that that struggle last week in the semifinal, I think, is a little bit overrated here because Cincinnati does have a very good secondary as well too, with Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant there in that defensive backfield. Moving on, Stetson Bennett, the flip phone user himself, 246.5 passing yards is his more or less. He's thrown for 247 or more in just 6 games so far this season. But he did explode against Bama in the SEC championship game, throwing for 340, which is his season high. Bama is ranked 49th against the pass in the nation, so kind of average there. Last 2 games with Bennett as well, they've let him air it out much more. He's thrown for over 300 in each. I mean, what should we make of that, John, going into that game this game tonight?
I really like the more here for Bennett. I think that the walk-on narrative really kind of changes people's perception of Stetson Bennett. But when you look at the numbers, let's say since he started against Auburn, so back in week 6, averaging 9.6 yards per attempt, 21 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, and has also run for almost 200 yards in that stretch as well. So if you just did a blind resume and looked at those numbers, averaging almost 10 yards per pass attempt and throwing at such a strong, efficient touchdown to interception ratio, you'd be like, this guy's really legit. But the flip phone stuff, the former walk-on background, it makes you a little bit less certain of him, I think. But I think that he is in a really good spot here. I think that Georgia's passing game is getting maybe the healthiest it's been all season. This will be George Pickens' 3rd game back from that ACL. I think Jermaine Burton's back at 100%. That really helps, especially when Alabama is going to be trying to limit Brock Bowers. I don't know how much you can actually limit Brock Bowers, but they're going to try. And I think that those other guys out there are going to be able to help Stetson Bennett get to the more here.
Yep. And a very important poll on our Twitter page at MKF. Would you use a flip phone in 2022? John, yes or no?
That's a no for me, dog.
And so that's a no from me as well. And it's a no from 55% of the users that have voted on the poll so far. So there, look at that. People come together. We have a little bit of an agreement there on no flip phones in 2022. All right, let's talk about some of the skill position guys. We got Jamison Williams, 105.5 receiving yards, excuse me. He's reached 106 or more in 7 of 14, including erupting for 184 yards in the SEC championship game. But No Mechie, maybe that means he's a little easier to contain, finished with just 7 catches for 62 yards against Cincinnati a couple weeks ago. John, 105.5, more or less, Williams.
So that's a huge number, but I think it's important to remember, like you're saying about not taking too much from the Cincinnati game when it comes to Alabama, just because their game plan was so different than what they're going to be using tonight. We still saw Jameson Williams push for 32% of the target share in that game. So even though Alabama only threw it 28 times, he still saw a really big chunk of those targets. So I think that we're going to see expanded passing volume tonight, but I think we're going to see his target share remain consistent with what it was against Cincinnati, where he's going to be getting the ball 1 out of every 3 times that Bryce Young drops back. And I think when that's the case and you have Williams' big playability, it's hard to take less than that one. So I'm going to go with more here.
Yeah, this number's it's really high, but I'm going to go more as well. And then I like his fantasy prop too. It's 19.5 fantasy points. I think I'm going to go with the more on that because he could run out of the backfield as well, which we saw against Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that call as well. I think that, based on sheer receptions, yardage, and his touchdown upside, I think we're going to see him climb into the 20s as far as fantasy points go.
Then we got the Cotton Bowl MVP, Brian Robinson Jr., 74.5 rushing yards, more or less tonight. He's reached 75 or more in 7 of 13 games, but one of those games where he didn't was the SEC championship game where he finished with just 55 yards on 16 carries. I believe that was the John McKechnie lock of the millennium too.
Yes.
In the year 2021. They're number 3 against the run. 81 yards per game is all that Georgia's allowing. How do you feel about Robinson tonight? Do we get another lock of the millennium on this one?
I can't quite go that far because unlike last time, I think that Brian Robinson is at 100% healthy. I think he got pretty banged up in that Iron Bowl the week before the SEC championship game. So he is going to be running more effectively this time around. The question just kind of comes down to his rushing volume. I don't really see Alabama running him all that often. I think that we're going to see him have around 15 or so carries, but I think that Georgia's front 7 is just, it's so deep, it's so fast, it's so physical that even though Brian Robinson is really physical and fast for his own right, I think that we're going to see him get kind of shut down a little bit this evening. So I'm going to take the less once again on Brian Robinson.
Yeah, I'm going less as well. I think this is going to be the Bryce Young show, and Brian Robinson is just going to be a sidecar. So I'm going less there as well. And then on the other side for the Dogs, we got Zamir White, 55.5 rushing yards. He's reached 56 in just 5 of 14 games this season. Bama's number 4 against the run, allowing just 82 yards per game. Just 27 yards on 7 carries in the SEC championship game, John, but they kind of had to scrap that game plan and go pretty much just air it out and air raid the rest of the game once they fell behind. How do you feel about White tonight?
I don't feel great about him either. I think that Georgia is going to be in pass mode for a lot of this evening, and I think that that's going to limit White's snap count. I think we're going to see a lot of James Cook. I think they're going to mix in guys like Kendall Milton and Kenny McIntosh. I think that we're going to only see 10 to 12 carries for Zamir White, and I don't think that he hits this number. I think he's an important guy that can move the chains, but I don't like the upside as far as his yardage goes on this Alabama run defense. So I'm going to take the less.
Yeah, I like that stable of running backs from Georgia. I think they're going to kind of split the carries up a little bit. And I just don't think he's going to get enough touches to get to 56 yards in this one. And then finally, we got Brock Bowers, the tight end, 68.5 receiving yards is his more or less. He's reached that nice total of 69 yards in just 5 of 13 games, but he was a monster in the SEC championship game. 10 catches, 139 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, we don't even see NFL tight ends do that. That's just how good Brock Bowers is. So what do you expect out of the freshman tonight?
I think we're going to see another big game from him. I think that he clearly is the best player on Georgia's offense, regardless of position, and he's just a true freshman. For a man who hails from Napa Valley, that is just a violent individual on the football field. That guy is crazy, and I think that he is, going to be a huge problem for this Alabama defense, and he really is the number 1 option in the passing game. I see him pushing for double-digit targets, and his yards per target is off the charts. So if he gets double digits, I think he's going to easily clear the 69.
Yep, we are in complete agreement across the board here tonight. We're pretty much going more on everybody except for the running backs.
More.
Yep, more. That's right. Love the air raid and the passing attack tonight in the College Football National Championship. I do want to remind you guys just one more time, in case you missed it earlier on, we do have a great promo. No. Now I'm going to say it. Because you text me during the show. I'm going to say it again. Every $20 you spend on contests here in the College Football National Championship, you will get a $5 ticket for college basketball contests coming up here as we go through the college basketball season. So there you go, Jay. I hope you're happy. I've now said it twice.
I texted him while you were answering the Brock Bowers promo, you whore. He already said it, so I didn't know that he did.
I am a slut for promos, so I just said it twice.
Oh, God.
Fair enough.
All right. Let's do a little speed round here, John. I want to get through the rest of these fantasy point props for anybody who might be playing those contests. So we did already do the Jameson Williams one. We're both going more there on 19.5, but Bryce Young, 26.5 fantasy points.
Less.
All right. Stetson Bennett, 22.5 fantasy points.
More.
Down to 21, still going more. All right. Brian Robinson Jr., 15.5 fantasy points.
More.
All right. And Brock Bowers, 14.5 fantasy points.
More.
All right. And do we have Zamir Whites anywhere, Jay?
Do have Zamir Whites. Hold on, let me
take the less whatever it is on Zamir White.
Okay. I took more on Jameson Williams because 19.5 based. I mean, if he gets 100, it's PPR. So if he gets 100 yards, he's getting. Well,
right.
Yes. Well, that might not be true. I don't know. My math is wrong. Brock Bowers was 15.5. Is that what we were looking for?
I said 14.5.
15.5 for Brock Bowers now. You guys are moving the lines yourselves at this point.
Climbing.
Look at that. All right. It's prediction time. Our friends at Bally Bet, they want to know. Let's help them out here, John. The line is Georgia -2.5. The over-under is 52.5. What is your prediction for tonight's national championship?
Georgia 31, Alabama 27. So Georgia covers and the total goes over.
All right. I have the exact same score, but in the other direction. Bama 31, Georgia 27. I love the over in this game. I think the first team to get to 30 points is going to win. And as we've seen in the past here with those past 3 college football playoff losses for Nick Saban's team, to slay the dragon, you got to have that superstar on offense on the other side. And I just don't think Georgia has that guy. They don't have a Trevor Lawrence, a Deshaun Watson, or a Zeke Elliott to slay the dragon tonight. So I think Bama is going to win another national title.
But they have Brock Bowers.
It's fair, but they do have Brock Bowers. So.
Too young. Maybe next year. He's only a freshman. Maybe next year. All right. Very good. Anything else tonight, John? You got a sneaky play or anything like that? I think we covered pretty much everything, but
if anything comes out on Darnell Washington, maybe scoring a touchdown at Monkey Knife Fight, something like that, I think that I would be very, very interested in that one. He scored a touchdown last time out against Alabama. He's a huge force in the red zone. He's 6'7", long arms. I think that he's definitely a guy that's going to get some looks, and they're going to use him a lot on the field on Monday night because they're going to need multiple tight ends out there to chip Will Anderson. So I'm expecting Darnell Washington to have a nice little X factor. And I think Jermaine Burton is my other X factor for Georgia tonight because, again, George Pickens not being 100%, Brock Bowers getting a lot of attention. I think Burton is potentially in line for a big game, or at least he's going to be tasked with putting up a big game Monday night.
Very good.
I guess they don't. I was looking up first touchdown scorer to see what Bally Bet does have them if you're in one of the 4 states, Colorado, Iowa, Indiana, or Virginia.
I'm in Indiana.
You're in Indiana. You can get on.
Let's go.
That's a free $100 bet, John, just for signing up, and a $550 risk-free first bet.
Wow.
I'm gonna sign up and I'm gonna tell my friends.
There you go.
Look at that. People helping people. It's powerful stuff.
That's right.
I think if I had a sneaky play tonight, if anything comes out about Slade Bolden getting in the end zone, he's my guy for Bama getting in there. He scored in the semifinal. I think he could do it again tonight and sneak there, the slot receiver for Bama. Anyways, all right, guys, that's going to do it for college football season on MKF. Thank you very much for following along and watching all season long. We'll be back at some point. I think we're going to be doing some NFL shows coming up here, John. So everybody, don't forget to subscribe to MKF's YouTube page. We got some great NFL playoff content coming up here in the next few weeks. But it's been a pleasure, man, and good luck tonight. I'm hoping for you, but I'm betting on Bama.
That's fair. I mean, that's where the smart money's going. That's where like 90% of the money's going. But yes, much appreciated. Appreciate the sentiment. And yeah, this has been a blast doing the college football show all season. I hope that this one ends on a high note.
Very good. All right. Thanks, guys.